Immortal yearnings without name leap down, large quiverings of Godhead seeking run, and wave upon a puissant field of calm. See again, everywhere, strength and calm. You see, puissant field of calm, a high and lowly ecstasy of will. Yes, ecstasy of will. The will itself has a joy of happiness. It's a kind of a triumphant, jubilating will. Yes, I am going to conquer. I am going to master things all like that. It is that ecstasy of will. This, in a moment in depth, was born in her. So all that he has described, the moment has come, two things will happen. The soul and the oversoul, they see each other. The power comes down here and new birth takes place. And Savitri is now newly born to be this situation there, you see. This is because she is not going to weep and cry. She is still calm there, you see. Horn moon, we saw last time, horn moon, you see. There is a reference to horn moon in Shakespeare's Midsummer Night's Dream. You can look into it. The lantern doth the horn moon present. The horn moon is presenting the lantern in the present situation here. In the case of Shelley, the evening was most beautiful. The horn moon hung in the light of the sunset. So it is the evening. So the crescent moon hung in the light of the sunset. It threw a glow of unusual depth of redness above the Pine mountains and the dark valleys which they included. Now this is the most appropriate description, quite apt description in the context of what we are seeing in the case of horn moon tossed like a crescent birth. Unusual depth, glow of unusual depth. Redness above the Pine mountains and the dark and valleys which they included, you see. So that is a kind of a new moon, new birth which has taken place in the case of Savitri. Now, horn moon hung, coming from Shelley. It has not just imaginative association. Shelley has great occult depth in his thoughts, in his expressions, in his poetry. Great occult depth. And it is that occult aspect which you see in this one, in the case of the horn moon described by him. Shelley, in one of his letters, Shivandu calls him that he was not an evolutionary being. He was not an evolutionary being. He was an involutionary being. Shelley was an involutionary being. He had taken a special birth to write poetry in English. See. And therefore, because he was an involutionary being, he says, upon the thorns of life I bleed, I fall, I bleed. On the thorns of life I fall, I bleed. That's what happens in the case of the involutionary being, you see. He is not accustomed to our kind of life, you see. So there is an unusual occult depth in this horn moon described by Shelley. And that is what you have here also. A crescent of miraculous birth is tossed, whose horn of its floats in a bright void. This is a reference to horn moon by Edgar Allan Poe in his poem Colosseum. The Roman reference is there. Here, where a hero fell, a column falls. About the Roman Empire falling. Here, where the mimic eagle glared in gold, a midnight vigil holds swarthy pet. Here were the dames of Rome, the gilded hair, waved the wind. So, and now wave the reed and thistle. So this is the fall of Rome, of Roman Empire, where dames of Rome, their gilded hair, waved to the wind. Now wave the reed and thistle. So what has grown there? Wild grass. You see. Here, with a golden throne, the monarch lulled, glides spectre-like unto this marble home, lit by the by the wan light of the horned moon. So that is the sign of that is the significance of the horned moon, describing the occult aspect of the fall of Roman Empire. The swift and silent lizard of the stones. You see. But there is a very poignant reference to horned moon by Coleridge in his The Rime of the Ancient Mariner, in his ballad, The Rime of the Ancient Mariner. See, see, I cry, she takes no more. Hither to work as we, without a breeze, without a tide. She steadies with a bright keel. The western wave was all aflame. The day was well nigh done. Almost upon the western wave rested the broad, bright sun, when the strange ship draws suddenly twixt us and sun, and goes on. And then say, we listen and look sideways up, fear at my heart as a cup. My lifeblood seemed to sip, the stars were dim, the, the stars were dim and thick the night. The steersman's face by his lamp gleamed white. Round the sail the dew did trim, till clomb above the eastern bar the horned moon with one bright star within the nether trip. So the horned moon is there is a bright star is tipped there. Now this is the sign, is an omen which is not a very happy one in the context of the mariner, because he has killed the albatross and bad days have come and all his shipmates are dead and all that kind of a thing. They were cursing him all the while, you see. Let me quickly give the reference of the story. Will not read the whole thing, but I will read the passage. At first, the other sailors were furious with the mariner for having killed the bird that made the breeze blow. That is the story of the ancient mariner. But when the fog lifted soon afterward, the sailors decided that the bird had actually brought not the breeze but the fog. They now congratulated the mariner on his deed. The wind pushed the ship into a silent sea where the sailors were quickly stranded. The winds died down. The ship was as idle as a painted ship upon a painted ocean. Painted ship on a painted ocean, still in that. The ocean thickened, and the men had no water to drink, as if the sea were rotting. The very time passed, the sailors became so parched, their mouths so dry, that they were unable to speak. But one day, gazing eastward, westward, the mariner saw a tiny speck on the horizon, some kind of a hope. And then the mariner bit down his arm, then he says, okay, we'll skip it. He was able to moisten his tongue enough to cry out, a sail, a sail. The sailor smiled, believing they were saved. And then what happened? Death and a nightmare, life and death, who takes the form of a pale woman. Life and death, that is a nightmare. She is taking a form of a pale woman with golden locks and red lips and thick man's blood with gold. Death and life and death began to throw dice game. What is going to happen, you see? and the woman won, obviously. Whereupon she whistled 3 times, causing the sun to sink to the horizon, the stars to instantly emerge, and the moon rose. Chased by a single star, the sailor dropped dead one by one. So now this is the context in the mariner's story of the horn moon. Basically, horn moon. It brings the bad tidings, you see. Now, there is a comment about this one by an astronomer. He says, persons living in a city surrounded by its lights do not perceive the heavens. He is commenting very adversely about Coleridge's image of a horn moon with a star there. He says it never happens. Astronomically, such a thing never happens at all. But people living in the city, they see only lights, artificial lights, and imagine all these things. They know not that sun makes its apparent daily, etc., etc. This lack of knowledge of the heavenly bodies and their motion has led to many amusing mistakes in literature, both ancient and modern. The classical example is found in Coleridge's Rime of the Ancient Mariner. He is cursing me. It is, of course, impossible for a star, astronomically, it is impossible for a star ever to appear within the crescent of the moon. For the stars are all far more distant than the moon and consequently never pass in front of the darkened face. So, although Coleridge has given a very beautiful poetic description of the horn moon here as a physical fact, astronomical fact, it is a wrong description. But that does not still take away the occult power of the vision which is present here. What we are concerned is not with the astronomical fact, but the occult content which is there in the horn moon. Now this occult content is something which is what we have to see also a crescent of miraculous birth is tossed whose horn of mystery flows in a bright void as into heaven. A new light comes, immortal yearnings, without name live down, high and lonely ecstasy of will. This in a moment's depth was born in her. So this is the kind of a transformation which has taken place in the case of Savitri. The two things which have happened in that tremendous moment has brought out a new birth to Savitri, and Savitri is somebody else now. So this tremendous moment comes only in the case of exceptional people, you see, like that, to really be newborn like that in that moment, to be newborn. Now to the limitless gate disclosed, let's see, things barred from me. So that moment now will come, what was barred will come into view too. The spirit who had hidden in nature soared out of its luminous nest within the world. Like a vast fire, it climbed the skies of night. That is a tremendous change. Like a vast fire. What? It climbed. Who is that it? The spirit. Thus were the cords of silver oblivion torn. Like one who looks up to far heights, she saw ancient and strong as on a windless summit above her where she had wandered, worked in her lone mind, laboring apart in a soul tower of self, the soul. So she saw, what does she see? She saw what? The source of all which she had seen or wrought, a power projected into cosmic space. She saw basically the slow embodiment of the cosmic ionic will, of the ionic will. She saw slow embodiment of the ionic will. So she is now that will which is there in her, which has been coming, which she has been carrying from the very first birth of hers on earth. Since her coming here, it is that ionic birth. Now she is embodied, they have taken the position of it. The starry fragment of the eternal truth, the passionate instrument of unmoved power. And then a presence was there that filled the listening world. So Savitri sees now that power and that thing. Who is there now present? No more that just Yama, death there, but the divine presence itself is present. The power, the divine mother herself is present there. She sees that a presence. So therefore she saw the embodiment of the aeonic will. Who is that aeonic will? That presence. Well, listening were a central all assumed her boundless life, a sovereignty, a silent and a swiftness, one brooded over abysses. Who was she? Then, as in a choric robe of unheard sound, a force descended, trailing endless lights, linking time seconds to infinity. Immeasurably it girt the earth and her. It sank into her soul, and she was changed. It is that presence now which is there in the case of Savitri, and it is that we will do whatever is to be done. Choric robe of unheard sounds. Well, in Greek dramas, even in other places, the kind of robes you put on when you are playing chorus musical of unheard sound, a force descended. So that force is coming with that robe, that kind of robe is descended, trailing endless light. So just imagine now the robe itself is coming, descending with endless lights. Now, to a certain extent, it is reminiscent of what the mother has described when she was at the age of when she was 13. That she used to go above the town, up like that, and the robe would stay down, down, and people will come and touch and feel happy and consolated. So that choric robe, that luminous robe, that many-hued robe, it is that now which is there around her. It sank into her soul and she was changed. Then, like a thought fulfilled by some great word, obviously when that change takes place, what happens now? That mightiness assumed a simple form. That mightiness, what is that? That mightiness, that refers to that power, that presence. It has assumed a simple form. Her being spaces quivered with its touch. It covered her it covered her as with immortal wings. This is what we are saying, the immortal wings. Savitri is covered with those immortal wings in that picture, no? It covered her as with immortal wings. On its lips, the curve of the unuttered truth, a halo of wisdom's lightnings for its crown. On its lips, the curve of the unuttered truth, a halo of wisdom's lightnings for its crown. It entered the mystic lotus in her head. Now it is that power which is entering from above into various centers of Savitri down below. A halo of wisdom's lightnings for its crown. It entered the mystic lotus in her head. A thousand petaled home of power and light. So Sahasradala, this is the same above our head. The center with thousand petals, which is the center of power and light. So that power now is entering into the subtle center above her head, Sahasradala. And then further down, immortal, a thousand petal home of power, immortal leader of her mortality, doer of her voice and fountain of her world, invulnerable with time, omnipotent, it stood above her calm, immobile, mute.
That's why all this happened to her in the night only, no? In her yoga, Savitri's yoga, Savitri had all this experience.
Yeah, Savitri, now that has to come into action.
Again, she is getting
Yeah, that has to come into action, you see. And this is what is happening now in the case of action. She has to come into action, you see. Basically, it's something like saying, to give a very crude example, you are living in peaceful times, but then you don't really just live idly. You see that your army is ready, you see that your air force is ready, you see that your naval forces are ready. Everything is trim and active and in action, everything. They're there always. When they wake up, when they put it, when the enemy comes. When the enemy comes, you see. It is not that you have newly born them. Now they have woken up into action. This is what is happening now. Savitri is kind of waking up in her action with the entry of the divine power starting from her head down below. This is important. You see, it is not human Savitri is going to fight. Human Savitri has lent herself totally to the divine power. She is the instrument of the divine power. I think we have seen that, instrument, earlier we see. Yeah. And see, it covered her as with immortal wings. It means that she is complete protection. She is with complete protection. Against what is happening, she has complete protection. You see. Now this one, where is that line gone? Yeah. Immortal leader of her mortality. This is a very powerful line. Immortal leader of her. Savitri is a human, but now the immortal leader has taken possession of Savitri's mortality. And it is that immortal leader who is the doer of works, who is the one who will do whatever is required to be done, you see that. Immortal leader. Immortal leader of a. Now this kind of a phrase, immortal leader for mortality, appears with different wordings in different places in Savitri. The immortal in the mortal. The immortal in the mortal is the Vedic phrase. The Veda speaks constantly of the immortal in immortal. And the immortal refers in the Vedas to Agni. He is the immortal in us, in the mortal. He is the immortal in us as immortal, you see. And he does whatever is required. Agni is the immortal in the mortal, you see. Here now, the same description is transferred to the divine power which is there, who has now taken charge of mortal Savitri. Doer of her works and fountain of her works, invulnerable by time, omnipotent. So there is a complete power. Nothing can be challenged. She comes with a conqueror's sword. See, this is what we had. Savitri will come with a conqueror's sword. That was the boon Ashwapati had received from the Divine Mother. Yes, I shall take birth with a conqueror's sword in my hand. It is that omnipotence which is there now. It stood above her calm, it stood above her. Sorry, the phrase is, it stood above her. How it stood? Calm, immobile, mute. It is not, it stood above her calm. Means the three adjectives were stood are calm, immobile, mute.